everybody. I'm Russell Hill, your host of WTF, and that is What the Fixed Ops to all of you out there. Glad you're here, and I'm joined today by...
Hello, everyone. I'm Charity. Today we have Jami Alexander. She is the Fixed Ops Consultant at Meineke Car Care Centers. Jami, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, guys.
Yeah. Well, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Absolutely. So, I'm Jami Alexander. I've been in the industry going on 28 years now. I actually started in the parts world, the aftermarket parts world, worked my way up to managing parts stores, and even actually have extensive knowledge in 18-wheelers, hydraulic boom repairs, and running on-site fleet services companies. Most recently, I ran a couple mom and pop stores, but about 6-7 years ago, I joined a local owner for Meineke Car Care in the Portland, Oregon metro region. He had 4 locations, helped him grow to 7. And then I was recruited to come out to the East Coast. Most currently, I oversaw 11 Meineke Car Care Centers in the South Carolina and North Carolina region, and then decided to go into independent consulting. And so starting next week, I'm going to be in the Baltimore, Maryland area, and I'm going to be helping 4 different owners that are all within the same demographic and region with growing their centers and helping on the fixed ops side of things.
Wow. So you are constantly moving around the country.
Right.
Okay. How does that living like that, where you're never really in a stable spot, you're constantly moving around?
Well, we're stable here. I'm not moving, so it does require a lot of traveling. My last organization within the Carolinas, I had a 500-mile radius, and then I helped co-oversee a store in Lowell, Massachusetts, and then they threw another one 800 miles away out in the Outer Banks. So being centrally located there kind of helped. I was able to find a place to, put my RV and be centrally located and then work from home one day a week. It's hard, it's hard to stay out of your own mind. It's hard spending time alone or having, dinner with your grandkids and your husband during, FaceTime. But I thrive in these type of environments because I get bored if I'm just in 4 corners and 1 wall. I like the challenge of being able to move around and go into the centers and be there in like real time objectives. But still kind of, you got to keep it out here that you're still helping them, the other ones behind the scenes. So yes, it's challenging. Yeah, it's frustrating. But it's probably the most rewarding because I feel like I can have a broader reach to not only learn, because I learn so much from everybody. It doesn't matter the position in this industry, but also I feel like I got a broader reach to be able to help people.
Yeah, well, you certainly do that. I don't know. I think we may have even met in person, and I'm not even sure where I first met you. Is it possible as Dave Foy and Fixed Ops Mastermind or one of those?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
But all I know is just about everywhere I go, Jami is there. I follow her on LinkedIn, and she is a very unique talent. And a lot of you out there listening today probably know her, but you're going to find out. You just stay tuned in and keep watching because she's going to be everywhere once this releases for about 2 or 3 weeks. But she's an amazing leader, amazing talent, and she's done all the work to get where she's at. I can't even fathom. We were talking yesterday about We Are, and Jami was in that room, made some comments, and I just was like, getting a woman's perspective, like I'm really supposed to know or be able to understand that. I can't possibly understand. I forgot the name of the limerick thing or whatever that Katie used, but you're twice is women are just different, but your prevalence in this industry and the reputation that you have with all the people that we know is off the chart. So it was time to introduce the rest of them who don't know you to get to know you. So we are really glad you're here. So what makes you tick? What makes you different in the automotive industry? Why do we see so much of you online?
Well, it's kind of funny. I came to LinkedIn. I think it's been a couple of years ago. Totally came out of my comfort zone, but I was at a point, not only personally but professionally, that I felt strangled. I felt like I was hitting my ceiling where I was, and I felt like I needed to level up me to be able to help my team level up, and I felt like I'm really passionate about making sure that my team knows that I work for them. I don't want a team that works for me. I want to work for them. It's my job to serve them. It's my job to help them. It's my job to listen to them. And when I feel like I'm running out of fresh ideas or messaging, I take it personal. I mean, they say you're not supposed to, but I do, because if I'm taking care of the team and all that I ask in return is that they participate and that they work with me, then they should be able to be freed up to take care of the guest. If I'm making their job easier for them, then there should be no excuse to not take care of the guests and to have happy customers. And so that's why I joined LinkedIn, and it just kind of snowballed. It was really overwhelming at first. I stayed behind the scenes for about 6 months because I wanted to bring different. So I wanted to hear what everybody was saying, and I wanted to bring more of a personal touch, because I think that in this industry, we like to focus so much on the negativity, and we like to talk about the problems. And I think it was yesterday that I had made the comment, if we could identify and touch the problems and acknowledge them, but then be able to change our mindset to dwell on the solutions, we'd all be in a lot better position, in my mind. We talk about that we need talent. We talk about that we need people to come into the industry, but if we're just negative about it and we're not personable about it, why do they want to join our industry? What I think it was, and you'll have to fact check me on this, it was either this last year or the year before, for the first time in years, women joining our industry was on the decline, when we were like really up here with joining. And why is that? What's causing that? What are we missing to bring more women into this space? And I've had many great women mentors, but I've had probably more male mentors throughout my career. I'm not saying we just need to jump into this industry because you're a woman. It takes a special kind of woman to be in this industry.
Yes, it does.
I love it when people try to tell me, oh, you must be weak because you're so empathetic. Well, that's the biggest oxymoron I've ever heard, because to be almost 28 years as a woman in this industry, I think that's, says it all.
Yeah.
Have people said that to you?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
That's pretty harsh.
Most recently, just within the last few months, I had a male manager tell me, you only get away with this because you're a woman. And I said, no, you don't get away with it because I'm not going to put up with it.
Whoa, I love it.
Yeah.
So you got
throwing tampons at him.
Yeah. Out stalkers and out BS your BSers, right?
Yeah. It just seems so silly these days, because I've worked with men my whole life too. And they've kind of edged on the side of what would be considered sexist today. But nobody really cared. It was not a big deal. But I've never had anyone outright say something that rude to me.
And that's okay, because you know what? Change is hard.
Yeah, it is.
It's a natural ability to put your claws up and want to resist it, right? And we as leaders, we actually encourage it. We have egos, a lot of us do. And when I learned to ditch the ego and allow for that, if they're pushing back, that tells me they care more than they're saying they're going to care. Because people who truly don't believe in something or don't believe that change needs to happen, they don't talk about it. They quietly announce it.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you, I've had my share of pushback from Charity over the years.
Or Russell.
And I love her for it.
Well, that's a good segue into our next question, which is, how do you gauge success as a leader? What sort of metrics do you look at? What steps do you take to solve a problem? That's pretty loaded, but start where you want.
Well, success is relative, right? It's kind of like beauty. It's in the eye of the beholder. So success for me is seeing participation. So many times we look to people, we want perfect, we want instant gratification, we want instant results. And that's been inherently a problem with our industry specifically, whether it's on the variable side or the fixed side part of things. And so to me, success is seeing everybody participating and seeing everybody excited towards a goal. And success for me, yeah, I mean, we can't you not address the elephant in the room. Revenue is successful, right? But I think we look at it differently. So many times with our messaging and the way that we come across with numbers, we give the perception as leaders or as business owners that we want to pad our pockets. But a true leader can take the metrics and where we're wanting to show and be able to show in real time, in real situations, how we're growing the employees' paychecks. Because if we're growing the employees' paychecks, then it's all going to come around. Success for me is decluttering. We do too much, especially on the fixed ops side of things, of bombarding our advisors or our managers with administrative tasks that we expect them to constantly keep up on, and then we set them up for failure, because then we get mad because we have an upset customer, we have a bad CSI score, we have a bad Google review, instead of looking at within, because we set them up. It was our decision and our direction that ultimately caused the upset customer. So success is employee retention, it's guest retention, and making sure that we are investing in people enough to where before we just say we're going to go ahead and get rid of them, that we're making sure we did our due diligence of investing in them, taking time to learn their personalities, what their ideas of success is, and then partnering them with teams that will become like a checks and balance system, right? A really good mechanic is going to understand an advisor or manager's weakness, and the other way around. It'll keep everybody out of trouble. So, success is not just numbers, but when you become successful in understanding the people behind the numbers, then statistically speaking, your revenue is there. At least it has been for me.
Yes, when you take care of that stuff along the way, the revenue is there. Mm-hmm. It's kind of a byproduct. When you were talking about stepping outside your comfort zone, which you did, and it's like in no time at all, it's like I saw you everywhere. I don't even know how you had the time to do it all, because it's a tough job just to keep up with all the social media stuff. But let's go back in time, Jami. How did you get in this business? What happened? How did you get here, Jami?
So it was by accident. And I don't talk about this a lot, but I managed McDonald's all through high school. And by the way, they have one of the best training programs that
I bet they do.
Ever imagine.
Hamburger you, baby. Yeah.
And early on, I learned, I had to work with people that I were friends with, I had to go to school with. And some of the hardest decisions I had to make was take their time cards and punch them out, make them go home for not listening. But I was almost killed. A really bad domestic violence situation. And it was literally overnight. My parents brought a U-Haul and got me out of it. And I woke up the next morning and all of a sudden I had 2 babies that I had to feed, and McDonald's didn't pay a whole hell of a lot of money. And so I was terrified, and I walked into a Napa Auto Parts and told them that they didn't know it yet, but I was their next best great employee. I was terrified, and I got hired as a driver. And actually my second day in, I backed up and took a carbon fiber custom hood off of a Mustang.
Oh my gosh. Oh no.
And to make it worse, I had the guy follow me back to the store. And Karen, you probably know where this is, but Andreessen in Vancouver, Washington, the hood flies off of the customer's car.
I was waiting for that.
So I was pretty sure that my short-term automotive career had ended at that point. But honestly, it opened more doors. I don't think I have ever, I don't know how I had something so tragic, but such a blessing at the same time happen to me. They had great people, and I had this, he was an operations manager. He was high up, but his name was O'Shea Barner. And they were actually getting ready to open up what was called Perfect Editions by Napa, where they piloted it in Utah, where we sold the performance parts and actually installed them. And we were sitting at one of the locations and getting everything set up. And I wasn't doing well. I really wasn't doing well. And he came and got me, and he goes, you need to remember who the hell you are.
Wow.
Because they knew what was going on. And him and his wife sat me on the toolbox, one of those truck toolbox, and he bought me a pack of cigarettes because I smoked, and a big old Diet Coke. And he's like, I don't care if you smoke every cigarette, but he said, you're going to cry. You're going to get this out. And he's like, you're going to be okay, and you're going to make it.
Wow.
And at that point right there, I knew that I was going to be in the industry forever. I didn't know where I was going to go in it, but I knew I was going to stay. It was him and his wife that single-handedly gave me, that's where I get my lend our confidence from. They lent me their confidence. And they showed me that I could do whatever I wanted. He was not easy on me. He was one of the toughest managers I've ever had. But you know what? You knew where you stood, and he would give you a hand up if you were willing to work for where you wanted to go. And to this day, I stay in contact with both of them.
That's a leader.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful story. And I can see why it kept you here for so long.
Yeah, I never heard that. So
I don't talk about it often.
Well, thank you for being vulnerable, because those are the things, and I even though it's sometimes difficult to get it out of people or they'll just bypass it, those are the things, Jami, that really define us. Those moments in time, I get goosebumps, emotional just thinking about it, because those are the moments that really, like, okay, what could appear or at that time to be the worst thing that ever happened to you, it's like, hellfire and damnation. It's best thing for you to do is they came and got you and took you out of that situation. So many people stay in that situation. And so blessings to you. But wow, what a powerful story. Thank you for sharing, being vulnerable enough to share that.
Well, you're welcome. But I also, not only that, just that little piece of confidence made me realize I had a high school education. I didn't go to college. And this industry is one of the few industries where you can come in and you can write your paycheck.
Amen.
It's up to us. It's how hard we want to work. It's how hard what we want to do. And we can let's call it what it is. This industry, for the most part, is not, Intel or Microsoft execs. We are a mix of people of second chances.
We are. Oh man, that is so true.
We're people that so much we just stumble upon this for one reason or another. I was just at a Toyota dealership with my daughter buying a car, and the salesman was absolutely phenomenal. He was a young kid, and he was came from New York, I think. And I was like, "What got you into the automotive? What got you into this?" And he said that I can't remember what, I think he was food industry or something. And he's like, well, my dad said I needed to get a coach. And this life coach told me I had to get out of my comfort zone.
See?
And, and he's killing it. Doing like 20, 25 cars a month. And he's only been in the industry since February.
That's great.
Even those Intel, those execs and stuff like that, a lot of times people in the business can, if they want to, it is the greatest equalizing field that you can get into, because you can make all you want to make, and some of those people make more than those executives, don't they?
Yeah, well, absolutely. And, it's the only industry, no matter what angle you come, where we can truly be entrepreneurs, right? We can build our business within the business. I mean, a dealership will cover, or a shop will give you the four walls, will give you the inventory. So what other business can you go into and open that you're not having to pay for all the overhead?
Oh,
You're not having to pay for the cars. If they sit on the lot too long, you're paying the higher to the bank. You got all the tools at your disposal. And now, I mean, let's call it what it is. Training can be debatable all along. We do a horrible job with consistent training.
No doubt.
But it doesn't stop us individually, if we want to grow, to surround ourselves with people that do know. You can't be scared to sit at a table of people who know more than you. That's exactly what we should be doing.
Oh, absolutely. I was fortunate. Saying I love the way people just by chance or stumble or whatever. So I thought I was really good at selling drugs, but I really wasn't good at selling drugs. So I went to work to learn how to sell cars. And that was 1985. That was 40 years ago. There's some truth to that. I just want to throw that out there. But I met the guy that hired me. His name is Mike Biggers, who I still communicate with today after all these years. Took me under his wing because I was on the fence. I was just going to try it out, that type of thing. But because of his leadership and that type of situation, I was very fortunate. And after 3 months, when I was still on the fence, there was a defining moment for me, and I've been in it ever since because of stuff like that. It makes it, and you get way outside of your comfort zone. But you know what? If you can accomplish and go wherever you want to go. Wow. Great stuff. Thank you so much for sharing what you did.
Let me tell you about a partner that's actually helping dealers get ahead, Global Dealer Solutions. If you've been wondering how to use AI the right way in your dealership, especially on the fixed side, these are the people to call. Their team gets it. Not just the tech, but the real challenges that dealerships face every day. We're talking about conversational AI that doesn't just respond, it converts. It books appointments, follows up with service leads, even answers customer questions with actual relevance. It's not replacing your team, it's making sure your team can focus on what matters most, closing ROs and building relationships. But GDS isn't just about AI. They train your staff, drive traffic, and tighten up processes so your results stick long after the tool is turned on. And everything they do is built around one goal, growth that is real. If you want more service traffic, better follow-up, and a partner that's always a step ahead, check them out. Visit gdsdealers.com, follow them on LinkedIn at gdsdealers, or just shoot them a message and ask, what would you do with my store? And see what they come back with. Global Dealer Solutions, process-driven, people first, always on it.
Well, speaking of vulnerability, I wanted to ask you about what you meant when you said this. You had a post on LinkedIn that mentioned to lead with vulnerability. And I wondered, what does that mean?
Good question.
Well, I think that the biggest area that we miss as leaders, or that separates us from managers and leaders, is putting ourselves on a pedestal and acting as though we're all business and we're not human. And realistically, this industry specifically, we're human before we're business, right? We're humans. We sell machines and we fix machines from both sides of the thing. But if we're not relatable and approachable as humans, then what are we supposed to do? So vulnerability is being able to say, I'm sorry. If something happens, I'm sorry, I messed up. Or if you've got that employee who's been a rock star employee and then all of a sudden it's just going down, it's taking that moment and asking them how you can help. Not from a boss, not from a leader, but as a human. Is there something going on that we can help? It's sharing the stories. It's understanding that things don't happen at opportune times. People don't break up just because they're clocked out on their break. People don't lose a parent on their weekends off. And so you've got to be able to be vulnerable and be able to say, hey, I went through that. I call it my imaginary bag of problems. When I'm helping somebody through something, work related, and of course they don't have to share it with me, but I always point to the door and they're like, what are you pointing at? I'm like, don't you see it? They're like, what am I looking for? I was like, that's my bag of problems. and whatever it is, I'll share. I've got an adult son with mental health issues, that's had legal troubles and, trying to do that. My husband's 25 years older than me. My mother was a narcissist. I'm not perfect. I have my times where I want to pull my hair out. And I have my times that I say things that I shouldn't say. And, so vulnerability is just being able to be human and approachable and being able to have open conversations and tough conversations.
Well said. I have Charity. Please go ahead. I'll say something afterwards.
Why do people quit and give up, Jami?
Because we don't invest in them. We don't see them as we see them as metrics, and we see them as KPIs. We don't see them as what they're looking for. How many times have we taken somebody who does really well in a position, and just because they do that, we get arrogant and think that they'd be successful as a leader and be able to multiply it? We set them up for failure.
Yes.
We do that. People leave because they don't feel valued. They don't feel what we're missing. And not all. I mean, let's be realistic, right? There are people that we have to move on from. But for the most part, it's because they don't feel seen. They don't feel heard. They feel like we're telling them what to do, but we're not taking the time to show them how to do it.
I talk, Charity knows me so well. As a matter of fact, I'll get another topic, but people almost as much as breathing air want to know they count, they matter, they make a difference, and they're part of something, which is and I know there's times where we have major relationships, for example. They can go to hell in a handbasket real quick, and we get hurt really, really bad. And it's like, don't ever want to go through that again. So we shut ourselves off. And really, that's counterproductive. And we have to be vulnerable enough to be able to love and to reach out and trust somebody. We're all human. We all fall short. We say things or do things, sometimes intentionally, sometimes not intentionally. But it can hurt. It can cut like a knife real quick. But for us to shut down, it defeats the whole purpose, because you stop growing when you do that. So I think that's a wonderful message. Thank you.
Well, and we do. I mean, I do. I still shut down. It's a conscious effort. I have to constantly be thinking about it and not letting go. But I also think that that's one area that women do better than men in this industry is we feel differently and we think differently. And I think that sometimes, no offense, but men tend to hold grudges, and then that makes that wall.
No way. Yeah. Go ahead.
It makes that wall even that much thicker, right? And where women, I think that we tend to be more forgiving and empathetic, but we don't forget. And then we're
but we don't forget.
We don't forget. But with that being said, we're able to do a better job of setting those boundaries for the next time, and we're better prepared next time for those situations to not get caught up in it again.
I'm gonna change the topic on you a little bit. How would you suggest to people who are tired of waiting for opportunity to create their own? I think you're a good person to answer that question.
I think that we need to do a better job, not just in our industry, but all around, that it's okay to advocate for yourself, right? The squeaky wheel gets the grease. And I'm not saying being negative. I'm just saying putting yourself out there. It's okay to be proud to be of a team accomplishment and to contribute to team accomplishments, but it's just as equally okay to point out your individuals, because at the end of the day, a team is not one, it's many, and it's our individual contributions that we bring that either grow the result or cause the failure, right? And so you got to be able to advocate for yourself. You got to and sometimes you just got to go for it. I moved to the East Coast by myself with 3 suitcases. Never been off of the West Coast in my life. It was the scariest thing I'd ever done, but I knew if I didn't do it, that I was going to stay exactly where I was, and I was never going to get out of it. So sometimes you got to believe in hope, faith, have your dream, and just go for it. And you know what? You will probably fail, right? Failure is the biggest part of success, in my opinion.
It is. Yep.
And when you fail fast, you wipe off your knees and you dust off your hands, and you're like, okay, amen. Now let's try it again. We got to quit looking at failure as a bad word. Failure is the biggest part of life, personally and professionally, in my opinion.
It is. I have an acronym for failure, and that's first attempt in learning to fail. And Charity asked you a question earlier, quit or give up. Those are people that they failed and they think that's the end. It's not. It's just the beginning. Get up and go. If the dream is big enough, the facts don't count.
Yeah.
And you got to put yourself out there. And you obviously did that. And wow. Yeah.
Yeah. Kudos to you for working so hard, making so many jumps and dealing with so much stuff.
And dealing with all those men. Oh my God.
Oh gosh. Yeah. That's the easy part. And on that subject, what really surprises me, and Cherry, I don't know if you're going to agree with me on this, but sometimes I've found it harder in this industry for women to support us sometimes how the men, as much as the men support us.
Wow.
What has happened with straightening each other's crowns? It's not a race.
What a great point.
That's never been my experience in any industry that I've worked in, where
Really?
women are very much like helping other women. That's never been. That's why I've always had such a pleasant experience working with men. Because
that really bothers me. That really
because you understand how to manipulate us and keep us in check. I get it.
No, it's almost
I don't know that.
It's almost like women are like, it'll trip you just to get a few further than you are, type of thing. It's kind of petty sometimes.
Well, not kinda. It's extremely petty. And I've got a wonderful support of women around me, but I have found that I've had more men champions for me than female champions.
Yep, 100%.
Wow.
100%. That is a true story, Russell.
Wow.
Would you like to ask the next question, Russell?
You go ahead.
Okay. Well, I'd like to ask you this. Every morning we have to get up, we have to go to work, we have to get everything done. The monotony can get to people. So what makes you stay motivated on a daily basis?
I am a very structured person. I am up at the same time every morning. I have my coffee routine. I have my social media routine. But more importantly, before I close my computer at night, I write a list about my day of things that I did well at and things I can be better at. And I keep it small, maybe 3 things each. And so I use my accomplishments during that day as a way to, congratulate myself. Hey, I did really good at this. But more so, I use what I needed to improve on as my motivator for the next day.
Oh,
That's pretty powerful.
Yeah, that sounds kind of like stuff you do, Russell.
Yeah, I have my book right here, journal, and other books that I read. So, and I'm very structured like you too. Maybe that's inherent in all of us, but I wasn't that way for a long time. And one of the first things I do in the morning so I can see myself accomplish, it's just for me. That's all I do it for, is I have to make the bed. The bed has to be made, not just throw the covers up, throw the pillow. No, it has to be made, not militarily style, but it has to be made. And that's the first thing I do. And then I have a routine as well, like Clubhouse for almost 3 hours every morning, starting early. But I love interacting with people, and and Cherry does too. I mean, she's the branding and awareness we have is a direct result of her, not me. Some people think, oh, no. I'm constantly edifying and praise and charity for what she does and what she's done and what she's going to continue to do, because she's an amazing talent, and that's part of the team, right? There's no I in team, so that's a big deal. That structure. I like what you did at the end of the night, just writing those things. Don't make it a long dissertation. Make it real simple, or you won't do it.
Yeah, like yesterday, I really struggled with patience.
Uh-oh.
I just, and it was all around. It wasn't even just work. It was, at home. I struggled with patience. I got short with my husband. I got short with my grandkids. And so today, I'm working on that, patience. And that goes back to the vulnerability. I think that we all have our moments. We're going to have days that we don't have patience. There's going to be days that we've just had it up to here, but it's being aware of those and being able to, another way to just say, hey, I'm human. The first thing I did when my grandson came storming through the door this morning was, you know what, Grandma, sorry. I was being a little bit grouchy yesterday, because, we got to feeding into people. It's all ages, all backgrounds, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. And children can test your patience a little bit.
Oh my gosh.
Most of the time. Sometimes there's good contender adults out there, but children, they know how to get to you.
Oh my gosh, my house is being ruled by a 3-year-old in possible underwear right now.
I understand that. I got 4 grandkids, a little bit, and we're all real close to each other, all the kids and all the grandkids. And but the relationship with Papa is different than it is with Gigi, and it's like, and also with the kids themselves, right? But when Papa's around, for some reason or another, when they're being told something over and over again, I see them checking me out, and when they see my expression and it's a certain expression, things just change. It's like,
that's
what
a superpower.
Yeah, right.
Power Russell.
Yeah, right. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I love it though. I love it.
It's great. It's fantastic. Well, let me switch on you again. When you're consulting in the shop, what are some of the top issues that you generally run into, and how do you usually suggest they be fixed?
Well, currently and ongoing, our biggest issues right now is the DVIs. I think 90% of what people are wanting, owners, investors, whatever, out of the fix op side of things could be simply fixed with a consistent DVI. And we do a good job talking about it, but we don't.
What's DVI? Digital
vehicle inspections.
Okay, yeah. Okay, got it. I never heard that term. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. And that's been the hardest. That's been the biggest challenge. And so for me, this is an area where facts matter. And you've got to be able to be prepared and have them out to show. So how I combat that is I'll go through the process and the training with them. I'll let them complain about it. This is taking way too long. What they don't realize is that I'm timing how we're doing this. And most recently, I was actually featured in the newsletter for Meineke Corporate, because that is the biggest pushback. It takes too much time. Well, my view is we don't have the time not to do this, right? For several different reasons.
Yeah.
We've got liability reasons, for the owners. One thing the dealerships do better than the aftermarket consistently is you guys sell more hours than the aftermarket. So that helps combat with the selling the hours. But also it sets up for that retention and that future visit. It personalizes with the guest experience being a major focus, no matter which side of the aisle you're on, it's personalizing that. So what I do is I like to use real examples, and I'll give you 2 instances. So that technician goes through the motions, does the great inspection, and then we sell a $3,000 ticket. The first thing I'm doing is going back there and I'm congratulating that technician.
Good.
Look what the process did, right? And the other thing, as far as the time, so I just recently upped my training on the digital inspections, and I added probably about 11 different additional steps to kind of mix it up and to make it. And everybody was telling me it takes more time. Well, guess what? It took an additional 43 seconds in the shop for their piece of it. And it took an additional 2 minutes at the front end with being able to send it out. Now, with that being said, we had an immediate jump of $87 in our ARO.
That's a huge jump.
That was just immediate. And we were getting better with the shop flow and we were catching more things, right? Now, I'll give you another example, because I will tell you, I do believe in kind and empathetic leadership, but it doesn't mean that I'm not weak. And I will give the opportunity to touch it, feel it, to be able to redirect it until I don't. And I had a situation back in Oregon right before I moved here, where I had spent numerous hours going over the inspections from the back of the house to the front of the house. And we had this young kid that worked for us. He was so brilliant, but he was just a smart ass. I mean, I'm smart this was, but he was brilliant. And you know what? I'm okay to deal with that and brilliant, because I knew the kid was going to go where. And some of your best people are the ones that go back, right?
That's right.
But we were so busy. We had cars 2 in the bay, busy. And he sends me up this oil change. It was a Volkswagen Bug. And it was literally 4 corners, the dash. And he had $3,000 worth of work recommended. Water pump, timing belt, shocks, struts, all this stuff. No pictures. And I just had it. And the manager looks at me. He's like, uh-oh. And I go back in the shop, and I'm short. So I stood on the stool and I go, time out, stop production, enough. And everybody's like, we're busy. And I said, we are never too busy to follow process. I said, I have done everything I know to do. We're not too busy. And I said, you're either going to give me the pictures proof for this customer for me to sell this job, or I'm just selling an oil change. I said, we have one chance to set the expectation. And once that expectation is set, we lose credibility if they come back and we don't do that again.
That's right.
And he was mad, and I was called everything I can imagine, but I pretended like it was behind the door and I couldn't hear it. And he sends me
Good for you. That'd be hard. Anyway, go ahead.
It was hard, but I've had that rule with my kids too. Say what you want behind closed doors. Just if you're brave enough to say it to my face, say it. But anyways, and then I started sweating, because I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm proving a point. What happens if I don't prove this point? Doesn't. Come on, let's be real. But he sends it back, and guess what? I sold $2,800. So we took an oil change and we turned it into $2,800. And you don't think for 1 second that didn't prove the point with process, because 70 to 75% of most shops, or at least on the aftermarket, repairs come from an oil change. So that not only defeated, the excuse of we don't have time to do it or it doesn't work, but we also I proved the point with the mindset. You're damn right, it's going to be just an oil change if that's the way you're going to look at it. But it was an opportunity, and we took that opportunity, and we had a customer, and that customer was thrilled that we found this stuff. We had the proof to show it.
Well, whether it's picture or video, that level of transparency is critical because of what we've done to ourselves over the years, over the decades. Mm-hmm. And I know if I need an in-cabin filter and an engine filter, and you come out and tell me, that's I'm already defensive. If you have a picture of it, or you bring it to me so I can see it, and it's mine, I mean, I'm in. I mean, yeah, I get it. That's so critical.
Well, it's not only that. We assume that customers understand what they're looking for. I mean, what is the point of taking a messy picture of the suspension and telling them their ball joints bad, when it's literally a picture? Where is a circle? Where is an arrow? Where is the text to educate the customer? And customers, because they don't understand automotive, they understand visual. Take it one step further. Yeah. Here's your dirty air filter right next to what a clean air filter should.
Oh my gosh.
People are going to understand that, and I'm an advocate for ethics. I find out that something's being sold that should not be recommended. Ooh. I will lose it. I will absolutely lose it. But we're not only doing a horrible job with educating our customers on what's bad, but we're doing a really bad job of educating while things are good and when we should expect them to go
Yes.
bad.
Yeah.
If those tires are 8:30 seconds, put a quick note in there. We start replacing at 3:30 seconds. That's how you build trust.
Yeah.
That's how you build transparency
Right.
and retention.
Man, I mean, yeah, that's it right there. And like you said earlier, without something, a drawing or whatever, but you're showing somebody suspension, right? And they need their ball joints replaced. And here's what they're thinking, unless you hone in on what it is. Well, that's a damn shock. What I don't understand, ball joint, but they don't say that, but they're thinking, okay, they're trying to sell me some shit.
Right. When you can put it in their terms, hey, to put it in perspective, your brake fluids look like olive oil. That should be the color. Look, your brake fluid's black. They don't care about the moisture calm down. They don't care about
They don't even understand it, but they understand this versus that. Damn sure.
Yes.
Clean air filter, dirty air filter.
Correct.
Okay. Warped rotors and on and on and on. Yeah. Man, that's good stuff.
Before and afters are always been very effective.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, we only have a couple questions left and we're running out of time. So I'm going to have to be picky and choosy here. Can you tell us about a time when you realized you were wrong and how you made it right?
Well, gosh, I mean, I'm human. I'm wrong a lot.
But what'd you do to make it right? How'd you make it right?
Yes. So probably the most recent one that stands back was in Oregon also. And it was a case where I relied heavily on the numbers and the actual stats versus stepping outside of it and asking questions before. And this was actually with a technician. So long story short is at the end of it, I found out it was a manager thing, but the manager was being lazy and was not putting the work in the proper name and the inspections and everything else. And this technician had like all these comebacks and I mean, just was doing horrible in their auto vitals. And I talked to the manager and I just went about it wrong because I believed the manager without asking fact-finding questions from the technician. And I went in on a pisser. I was professional, but I was very firm. And that technician took it all. And at the end, he's like, now can I tell you what's really going on? And I shrunk like this. And there was no defense, right? I didn't do my job as a leader. And I just looked at him. I said, Craig, I am 1,000% wrong. I trusted in something that I shouldn't have trusted in, which I normally don't do. And I said, I have nothing other to say than just say, I am really, really sorry. And I didn't realize this was going on and asked if we could keep an open communication as we were trying to work through it. And I wanted him to be a part of it as we worked through it to make sure that this didn't happen again. And it was very, very humbling. I was pretty embarrassed, and rightfully so. I should have been embarrassed. I didn't do my due diligence.
Yeah. It brings up another question I'm going to ask you real quickly. And it's about the act of apologizing. Do you think, especially as a woman, apologizing makes you look weak? Or do you think you should take the presence to avoid apologizing, make things right still, but stay away from saying those words?
No. I mean, I think male or female, an apology is due if the apology is deserved, if the apology is due. And I think that can be, it depends on the situations, and that could be a loaded question because, the circumstances can be very differently. But I firmly believe that if apology, and I also think you can still apologize and stand firm because, I've learned through my 46 years that truth always lies somewhere in the middle, and so does perception.
Wow.
And so with it being a loaded question, it's kind of like, saying no by saying yes.
So
It's learning how to, it's learning how to apologize, but still stand firm. And like I said, that's a loaded question.
It is.
That can be a hard one.
Yeah, it can be. I think a lot of it has to do with leadership and vulnerability too, and maturity to be able to own it. And like you did, and you learned a very valuable lesson: trusting but verifying too. Yeah, that's a big one. Wow.
And that's one of the hardest things with multi-center operations. It's really easy if you're not structured and keeping up on things. Things can get out. It becomes like the old-fashioned game of telephone. And, it's starting here, it's ending here. And 9 times out of 10, it's us that ends up, looking like the jerk out of it because we didn't do our due diligence. But yes, I don't think it makes anybody weak to apologize. But I also think that we have to set boundaries, and especially as women in this industry, to be able to be okay with not apologizing too. There's times that there's been apologies expected of me that I'm not going to apologize for, depending on the circumstance.
Yeah, it's a tricky one for sure.
That's true. That is a tricky one. Making amends, apologies, whatever. Sometimes it's not how you say it, it's what you say. And other times it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And yeah, it probably pissed that person off, but they needed to be pissed off because they had to look inside. And sometimes you don't hear from them. And then sometimes you hear from them later on and they're apologetic, like your grandson walking in this morning, right? Yeah.
Well, and you also, in my opinion, I don't think anybody is truly ready to apologize unless they're sincere, right? It can also, apologies, if they're not done right and you're not learning a lesson to not repeat, apologies can almost be worse than the middle finger.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So I
what
think
finger? You're not one. Yeah, right. Yeah.
So I think that, because come on, we all have times that we get frustrated and we get, and there's been sometimes that apologies personally and professionally didn't come from me until about 2 or 3 weeks later because I really had to digest, things too. So it's just pretty simple. People first, process always, profits follow, right? Quit being so transactional. Start looking at things through an empathetic lens. Be approachable, be real. And part of being a real leader is not only letting them see you vulnerable, but also letting them see you be a real human being in the moment where you're not always going to present your best self. But if you're allowed the opportunity to show how to correct it, then you're still teaching and you're still leading, and you'll get better respect, in my opinion.
I agree. Well said. And my gosh, the hour flew by, literally.
It sure did. Is there anything that we didn't ask you today that you wish we had?
No, I just thank you for having me on here. It's an honor.
We are humbled, honored, and grateful. And for all of you out there, this is another extremely successful episode of WTF. And that's What the Fixed Ops. Jami Alexander, Fixed Ops Consultant from Meineke Car Care. And you brought a lot of really great stuff, personal and professional. That makes for a really good podcast. So thank you. And all of you out there, you're going to know it. Like her, love her, share with her, respond to her, ask her questions. Particularly, I'm a huge proponent of women in automotive, and I attend a lot of stuff where it is about that. I just want to understand more, even though I will probably never fully understand because I'm a guy. But that's not the point. We need more women in this industry. It brings a human side, a normalness that things are changing. And one thing you said, which I thought was, people don't leave. Very, very few. I left because the money was bad. No. The leadership was bad. That's why people leave. And so I see a huge paradigm shift taking place, and you're part of that revolution for women. So thank you very much. And Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you,
Thank
Jamie.
you guys.
Yeah.